This is the DLLS Stars Pregame Show. Our Stanley Cup playoff coverage is brought to you by Bud Light. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Enjoy responsibly. And by Happiest Hour, your home base and the best place to catch the NHL playoffs and cheer on the Dallas Stars just steps away from the AAC. The ultimate spot with 50-plus beers and 40-plus TVs for all the big moments every single game day. Happiest Hour, your favorite spot for the Stanley Cup playoffs. Big welcome to everybody watching on our YouTube channel and, of course, our new viewers. It's been a week now on Victory Plus. And don't forget, the spring cleaning sale is going on right now for ALLCITY networks. Every single network, including DLLS, has merchandise on sale. 30% for most of the store, 75% for some of them, although there are exclusions as we show you those playoff shirts. The Finnish Mafia, the Wyatt Johnston 16-bit, the Finisher for Mikko, the Mikko Moose, the Captain. Those ones are not subject to the sale, but all the other ones, including the one I'm wearing tonight, the DLLS flag green, the one that Luddy was wearing on the show yesterday, and we serendipitously did not wear the same shirt, although it would have been fine. Welcome in, everybody. It's Sam Nestler. It's Craig Ludwig. It's Sean Shapiro. I'm Owen Newkirk. We are remote tonight, and if you're curious as to why, ask the city of Dallas. We apparently have a scheduled power outage in our downtown studio building, maybe even that whole block, for midnight through 4 a.m., so we can't do the full post-game show as we expect a late night for Stars hockey. And, Luds, that kind of gets us to this right away is your buddy Razor did his little pregame Victory Plus Twitter thing today and said he smelled a hint of overtime in the air, and I wouldn't be totally shocked if that was the case.
Guess who I am?
You're blinking. Oh, you're Connor Hellebuyck.
I'm watching him right now do that.
I was thinking you were joking, and then I wasn't sure if you were having issues.
That's Connor Hellebuyck.
I kid you not, Luds. So Charlie, who's been in our chat regularly, he's a former ticket board op. He worked a lot with the Stars broadcast when I was on him back in the day, and he's actually in the chat tonight. He told me he changed that to his phone ringtone, the Hellebuyck Buck song from you. So somewhere out here, our buddy Charlie is listening to you whenever his phone rings.
Do we get to charge kind of like all the other songs that we can't play if somebody else uses that? Then you get
Hellebuyck, buck.
You want royalties, don't you?
Buck.
We'll have to talk to the bosses about that, but maybe you can get a penny or two in your mailbox money.
Hey,
all right, guys.
Speaking of the bosses, you guys remember after our last watch party or during our last watch along, I could have swore the boss had said the next day we would all be wearing the Jamie Ben visor shirts. Does anybody else recall that? Sam does.
I vaguely remember.
I believe he said he was ordering us those shirts, but I don't think they've arrived.
I thought he said we'd be wearing them. I
mean, that's between you and GM Ben.
Well, I'm speaking up for all of us.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. I believe he said he was getting us those, but I don't know if they've arrived
you can
yet.
Suck up. I'll just speak up.
All right. Well, you can complain all you want with the squeaky wheel, right? All right, guys. Let's start with the very obvious thing, which is they are going for the closeout tonight. It's not going to be easy. Interestingly enough, as we talked about yesterday, they do appear to be going with 11-7, the same thing as Pete DeBoer hinted at for yesterday at the airport with Sam and others, that they were going to, for the second straight game, work with these lines and these D pairings. And Sam, we'll start with you for this one. You weren't surprised. You thought that that's sort of the way Pete was going with it. You're happy with, as you heard Miro in the post game the other night, he felt pretty good about it.
Yeah, and he spoke. I think he spoke again this morning. He said he felt good. It felt like exactly what it was. It felt like he had to come back and get a little bit of his legs. He said his conditioning was no problem. He really said his skating didn't feel any different. It was just a little decision making. I love someone brought up his not catching Kyle Connor on the breakaway kind of as a joke when Pete said that, and Miro immediately, oh no, I was fine. I was just a mistake. It had nothing to do with my conditioning or skating or anything like that. So he's already got the competitive attitude back. But I know Pete was kind of leaning towards that yesterday. Just liked the fact that Miro can ease himself in. And if he feels a little tired, feels a little sore or whatever after a shift, they have another body to throw out there and not really throw a wrench into things. And then on the front end, it's kind of like 12-7 in a way, because Mikko Rantanen is just counting as two people now for the Stars with the way they're using him, the way they're just putting him out there in all situations with pretty much every line. So I think that this gives a few guys some extra ice time, gives a few guys that extra touches, and allows Miro to feel himself into the game a little bit. And I think that could be a key for guys that we need to get going a little bit on this team, which is Wyatt Johnston, Duchesne, Robertsons, those type of players.
Luds, is it a bit of a maybe overexcited reaction to hope to see Miro Heiskanen look a little better tonight?
I don't know if 24 hours or 36 makes a big difference. And I truly believe that the reason they're going back to this format is because they saw what we saw. He's not what we hope he is yet. And again, I think his forward skating and things like that, even going east-west, it was more about the pivots. And of course, there were some pucks that bounced off his stick. And I think a couple guys, when he turned, maybe surprised him. But that's a timing thing of not being in the heat of a playoff game. Practices just don't get you ready for that. So, I think you're better off being that way right now until you know that he can get closer to his 20, 25, whatever he wants to play. And because I would think that there's conversations going on that Miro, how close are we? Because he has to be honest with them just as much as, doctors and everybody else. So I think it's a good decision after what we saw.
Sean, as we look at Miro's play, he seemed, and Sam referenced the conversation he had with the media this morning. He seemed to think that it was more timing and rust than anything else, that he felt really good. He said his body felt strong, his legs, which is important.
Well, and I think one of the things with Miro, and it's what Lud's mentioned, he's got to be honest with the team on it and everything like that. I would be curious to see how that knee felt the next day. Just that's the big thing. There's all of kind of the knee happens during the game, and what happens next changes everything. It's the recovery the next day and see how it goes from there. So I'm really interested to see him play tonight. I actually originally I thought maybe they should go 12-6 tonight. I'm happy with them going 11-7 now, because just the more I thought about it over the past couple of days is how does that knee feel the next day? How does the recovery? And now we see from there. So the real honest look in the mirror moment for Miro had to be, what was it, yesterday morning, to kind of see how do you feel.
All right, guys, I want to show a graphic. Luddy, you've talked about this for years and years and years, and we always talk about it, especially in the playoffs. Special teams and goaltending is so important. This is just for the two teams in the series in the first 4 games. And if you look at the comparison, it's not much of a comparison. The Stars have a 3-1 series lead, and you can see why. Their power play and penalty kill have dwarfed the Jets, and their goals against isn't that big of a difference. It's close to a goal a game. That's enough. The save percentage is stark. They're getting much better goaltending and much better special teams play. To me, if you looked at nothing else, Luds, I would say no surprise they have a 3-1 series lead.
Yeah, I think two of them are alarming. I mean, again, the only reason the 884 is there is because he played good at home. I mean, if you you know what I'm saying? Like, otherwise, his road games are like 765, 769. So the other one that actually is probably surprising the most, and probably to the Jets themselves, is being 1 for 16 on the power play. Yep. They were at the top of the league when it comes to power plays. But again, they had Scheifele was injured, Morrissey was injured. Those are 2 key pieces that, and they have different pieces in there. But I do think that you have to give a ton of credit to Dallas's PK, especially in front of the net. Velarde, who makes a living or makes a big difference in front of the net, I didn't see him there as much, whether that was by design. And it wasn't that there was a lot of battles going on. It was just that they're trying to walk it off the goal line. I mean, that seems to be what they're trying to do. And I think they're trying to play around the format that the Stars have as far as their PK. And Jake has done a good job taking that short side away. I think it's usually Connor that comes off the goal line trying to get it upstairs there.
Sam, I have a stat for you that I shared with Sean. I want your reaction to this. I don't know if you saw this, but Paul Friesen, who writes for the Winnipeg Sun, posted a piece this afternoon about Kyle Connor not scoring power play goals. Now, Connor is the leading goal scorer on the Jets, both in the playoffs, the regular season, the last couple of years. He has not, and I can't believe I hadn't noticed this sooner, he hasn't scored a power play goal since December 23rd. Kyle Connor.
Wow.
146 consecutive Winnipeg Jets power plays without scoring a goal. Now, Obviously, the Jets had a great power play in the regular season, so plenty of other players were chipping in with goals. But that's notable, isn't it?
It's nice. Good word too. That's surprising to me only because, like you just mentioned, he had such a good year. It's not like it's just Kyle Connor is usually a goal scorer and he isn't. He had, what do you have? 40 plus goals again. So, I mean, this is a guy that you would expect to be scoring a lot of their power play goals. One thing that also reminds me of, and Ludz just also said it, is Pete used the term, I forget what game it was after in Colorado. He said these guys are due when someone asked about some guys that haven't scored yet. He said, I'm okay with them not scoring yet because they're due. You can look at those stats that you just showed and say, wow, the Stars are really dominated in these areas. Then you can also say what Owen just said, which is their power play was by far the best in the NHL. Their goal scoring was the best in the NHL. 90% of the stats were the best in the NHL. You could think on one end, these guys might also be due. And that's kind of the balance here is, are the Stars going to close them out before they figure it out and finally get going a little bit?
But hey, the good news with that is there's a couple of Stars guys that are due also.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So maybe they both come in and play next.
Hey, of that group, who's the most, in your mind, underperforming Dallas Stars as far as getting offense going?
You know, I've said it a couple times, Matt Duchene, and why it's been around it. You know, he's got a couple goals here, and the reason I say Matt is because he's the guy that really sets up the other two guys. You know, for the most part, he's the engine that kind of runs things once it gets across the offensive blue line. So I think that, and they've done a good job there. You know, and again, we talked about this halfway through the season where we found where Duchene is most successful is when he comes in over to the right hand side. And then he can kind of pull up, and then he can make passes on his forehand. And it seems like they're keeping Matt on his forehand side where he's not on the offside here. And I think they're finding that it's taking away from him, and it's also taking away his passing ability, like as he does from the other side of the ice.
Sean, Pete DeBoer kind of brushed off the comment today when being asked about other players not contributing. We'll talk about the Finns in the next segment, but the Stars head coach kind of said, I don't care right now. All I care about is the results, meaning the wins. And to be fair, he's right. But are there any players like Ludz talked about, any of those guys that you would like to see chipping in a little bit more offensively?
The obvious answer to me is Jason Robertson. Robertson he's someone who dealt with this is his first series back, right? It was game one, and we'd like to see kind of his growth off the injury and everything like that. And to me, there's elements I'd like to see of Jason Robertson's game that aren't injury related. There's parts of the game when it talks about getting around and getting to certain areas, but I also just want to see Jason Robertson shoot the puck a little bit more, right? Like He's a guy he is a quantity shooter. He's always up there and for shots on net. And so he's someone who, it doesn't matter. I would just like to see Jason Robertson, and they don't all have to be good shots, but I'd like to see him shooting the puck more and being a little bit more confident and setting things up where his line mates can kind of build off that. So for me, it's just Robertson, and I'm throwing the caveat in there where I gave him some time off the injury, but it's now been 5 games. You're cleared to go, and we're talking about shooting the puck and not necessarily movement and getting around and something necessarily super knee related. So that's the one for me is Robertson. I'd like to just see him shoot more.
You know what? Here's a stat for you that tells you who's got to get going. Not a big stat. There's 3 forwards that are plus. That's it. And guess who those 3 are?
They've got to be the Finns, right?
That was the same as last series too.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Over the course of the series.
Series,
those are the only 3 plus players, and there's only 2 defensemen over the course of the playoffs. And guess who those guys are?
Well, it's got to be Harley and Lindell.
Well, you're wrong.
Miro's plus.
It's Bichel and Petro.
It's Bichel and Petro.
That's amazing.
No, those guys that you're talking about are -4, -5. So again, we're over the course, but they played. They played a real good team, obviously, but they haven't. It just all goes back to guys that need to get going offensively. So, Sean picks out one, I pick out one. You should probably pick out 3 or 4.
Yeah. to Lud's point, or Owen's point, whoever made it before. It's one game. It's all, and as Pete was talking about earlier today, it's all that matters is a game that matters. I think the most drastic example of that was actually from another series today, where the coach, where the coach in Toronto. Why am I drawing a complete blank on his name right
Craig
now?
Berube.
Craig Berube says, "Well, if we lost 2-1, we lose 6-0, we still lose, and we're down 3-2. And I think that's one of the biggest things to remember this. And I think Sam was the one who a couple games back made the note of like that Colorado series was a perfect example to him of, you know what? It doesn't really matter what happens from game 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, everything like that. It's everything resets every single night. And so we have all these guys you want to circle and point out and do this, but at the same time, and I guess that's the more impressive thing about what the Finnish guys have been doing. If negative momentum doesn't continue, positive momentum doesn't continue. So that means the Finnish guys are doing the same thing to get going every single night the right way. And so everyone goes into a game with a blank slate, basically, in the playoffs, in my mind. That's kind of how it goes. And that's where everyone, it's what makes playoff hockey great, because it's an opportunity, and it's also something where it exposes guys all at the same time. So it's kind of a fun thing.
If there's one player that has to keep doing what he's doing, it's got to be Jake.
Yeah.
Because everything you look at, and I text Sean this morning about a particular stat, but I mean, it's just Jake's numbers it's the reason that this team is where they are right now.
Yes.
Period. And yes, Rantanen obviously has something to do with that, but Jake is the one that has been standing tall.
Let's continue this conversation with the Finns next here on the DLLS Stars Pregame Show.
Stars fans, how we doing tonight? Enjoying the game should be easy, so don't overthink it. What to wear? Put your birthday suit on tonight. Throw it on your favorite jersey if you want to. Not sure what to serve your friends? That's even easier. Pick up some pizza, grab some Bud Light, stock up the fridge, and maybe a long one again. See, everything, it's just that easy. Just like Bud Light, which is always brewed with 4 simple ingredients for clean, crisp taste. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy, but remember, do it responsibly. Bud Light, Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
All right, let's talk about Sleeper. Best and my favorite fantasy platform out there, period. But it's also more than that. Their picks are awesome and super simple and fun to play. Put your puck or ball knowledge to the test by picking whether your favorite, least favorite, or really any player will have more or less than their projected stats each week or each night when it comes to hockey. I'll give you my picks in a moment for Game 5 of Stars and Jets. With Sleeper, the more picks you combine, the more you can win, all the way up to 100 times your money. Sleeper keeps you in the loop with instant alerts for breaking news, major news stories, so you can stay ahead of the game and outsmart your friends at every turn. If you think you have what it takes, new users can download the Sleeper app and use the code DLLS Stars to get $55 in free entries when you place a $5 contest. Apply to any contest, does not have to be your first. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. You can check out Sleeper today. Now I will go right into some picks here. We don't have the beautiful screen recording because I'm in my dungeon of a home over here.
And Sam is not actually being kidnapped right now.
Yes, I'm safe. This is a DLLS flag behind me here that looks sketchy.
My captors are treating me well.
But for tonight, Stars Jets Game 5, I got Jake Oettinger with more than 23.5 saves. I also have, as we were just talking about today, Jason Robertson finding the back of the net, which is a big 3.32 times on that one. So more than half a goal. And then finally, down here, Wyatt Johnston, Mr. Birthday Boy, 22 yesterday. I think he also finds the back of the net. I don't know if the Stars pull this one out. I'll be totally honest with you guys. I don't fully know if they're going to win tonight. However, I do believe that Robertson, Oettinger, and Wyatt Johnston will have a big one. Combine all those three, and that is 17.61 times your money. There's the card right there. Stars Jets Game 5.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sam, but the chat is fired up ever since I made the captured kidnap joke. Burned Oils. Well, actually, Ardell started it with Sam McCain Nestler, a POW joke. Then Burned Oils wanted to know if your captors will let you use their toilets. Allie then said, Sam, blink twice if you need help. And they just kept going. So they are having fun. They're fired up. Let's get to it, though, this way. Let's talk about the Finns. Luds, as you mentioned, those are the 3 guys that are plus. Mikko Rantanen has 4 goals, 7 points in the series. Granlund has 3 goals, all of them in the last game, 5 points. Hintz has 3 points, a goal and 2 assists. They have been driving the offense along with a guy named Thomas Harley. And you know who else has 3 points? Sam Steele with 3 assists in 4 games. But think about that. Those are 7, 5, and 3 in only 4 games in the series. The Finns have been unbelievable up front.
Well, they've either scored or assisted on 19 of the last 20 goals.
Unbelievable.
So that kind of tells you how important those three are. The chemistry is crazy, right? They just it's there. And I was one of the guys that said, hey, when Robo comes back, I can see them moving, him up on that line and just flip-flopping Granlund down there. So, and I figured I should say that now before you guys go ahead and say, and you wanted to change lines, Lutz. Well, as normal, I was wrong again. I don't think you touched that line. That line will stay together until the parade is going on in Dallas or until they're gone, whatever comes first.
With a nice 99 float in the back.
Yep. There's going to be one. Mr. Nill, I'm just a reminder, there will be an alumni float. No, I don't think it really has to do if there's a parade or not. I think there could be just a one man.
just summer alumni float.
Right down middle of Dallas.
It's 107 degrees in late June in Dallas, and there's Luds with a stack of Miller Lights or Bud Lights, whatever you prefer.
A sack?
A mountain?
Stack.
A float.
A float full of them.
A float full.
I wanted to ask you guys about penalties for a minute. The Stars are -5 in power plays versus time shorthanded in the series. And that's would be a problem, except they are +3 because they've scored 4 power play goals in 4 games, and they have only allowed 1 against. Let's talked about that earlier. The 15 for 16 on the PK really is amazing. How is it just penalty kill and goaltending that is keeping them from really being overly punished for their discipline issue, Sean?
Yes, that's pretty much it. I don't really want to. I don't need to give a further explanation. It's that simple. If I'm Pete DeBoer, the amount of times you should just go in the room and say, you guys really need to be thanking Jake that we're not take 23 and 29 right now that these penalties aren't killing us. That's really what it is right now.
Anybody worried about that catching up to the team with this kind of, parade to the box?
I don't want to be like, you don't want to count chickens before they hatch. I'm not really worried about
Edmonton.
it. Yeah, I'm not really worried about it with Winnipeg. Like I think there's multiple. I think there's a Winnipeg issue as well, but I think the monster waiting on the other side of the door, if you get the job done tonight or Saturday, that will be that's something you can't do. So it's one of those where it's important to note, and you work on trying to fix it, and you have to, because you can't. The goal is to win 16 games, and so I think they can win 8 games for sure with it happening. I don't know about winning 16 games with it happening.
And here's the deal: if we're going to play, that's who it's going to be, right? They're not Dallas, regardless of what happens tonight. They're not losing 3 games. Okay, so
clip that, eh?
So the point is, and the thing about that is, Sean, is where Kyle Connor is coming off the goal line area to kind of get those to Jake. There's a number 29 on that team you were just talking about that can score from over. So, but you're right. And here's the other part about getting to the next round. They need to finish it tonight. If they don't finish it tonight, they need to finish it next game. When I've always said, I believe that there has to be one of the 4 series that you play in where it's a short series. You need to somehow recoup as much as you can. The longer this goes on, that other team over there is getting some bumps and bruises. And again, maybe that backfires a little bit on them, possibly if it goes a little longer, because they've got depth now. All of a sudden, they've got some players over there that are helping those other 2 guys out. So Dallas needs to finish this as soon as possible, get a couple days rest, and then go into the next round.
Luds, I can't remember. Did you sweep round 1 in 99? And what was the second round? St. Louis.
It was Edmonton you swept.
I think it was Edmonton.
Yeah. And then was that first round?
Louis.
Yeah, because that was when I jumped on a plane with Metallica and
yeah.
Well, there was
the second round?
There was a big thing, Luds, I remember. I don't know I doubt you guys had that conversation, but I know there was an outside conversation because Darian Hatcher was suspended for 5 games. And you guys swept round 1, and there were people who were wondering outside if you guys should throw game 4. Right. So
Right.
So Darian Hatcher could be back for game 1 of round 2. Like you guys are up 3-0, and there was outside talk of should the Stars lose game 4 so Darian Hatcher can play game
Luds
1 of
was
round
putting
2.
money on it.
So,
Yeah. No, the money was put on if I was going to get back from Mexico.
Let's talk about the Jets for just a second, guys. They made a slight in-game adjustment by moving Nick Ehlers back up with Scheifele and Connor during the game. Maybe Luds because Velarde wasn't as noticeable in game 4, but they are, according to their morning skate line, sticking with their group. They're sticking with Velarde up on the top line, Ehlers with Nemestikov and Perfetti. Have you guys been, has there been any surprises to you about the way that this team has looked over 4 games?
Well, for me, I would say they look closer to a normal team. They don't look like the team that rolled through 82 games. You know, I think Dallas and the coaching staff probably learned something from the St. Louis series of what and how they were able to shut them down and go 7 games. And, you know, and again, for me, what St. Louis did is they spent a lot more time in the offensive zone, and which only makes sense. Anybody you can play against, you spend more time down there, better chance you have winning hockey games. But I do think it's about taking certain players away and the way you set up. And again, I don't think Dallas has done a poor job of that. I think that, and good teams are going to find their chances. They're going to get their chances. And, you know, with this all being said, you have to expect that they're going to have their A game tonight.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sean.
I was going to say the other thing too about Winnipeg, there was such an emotional high from the game 7, right? They were 0.3, whatever it was, 0.3 seconds away, or 1.3, whatever it was from being done. And then they win the game 7. And I just think there's something where, not saying they took a victory lap out of that, but the Stars came out of their game 7 dramatic win with the business isn't done. This is, we know there's still 2 more rounds that we have, 3 more rounds we have to get through. Winnipeg, there seemed to be like a little bit more of that kind of feeling of, well, we've always had this playoff hijinks on us and everything like that, and we got over that with this end of this game 7. And I think there's a little bit too much of a internal victory lap of that for Winnipeg's perspective that is in Dallas instead looked at. We talk about winning 16, and that's what Dallas has been focused on the entire time.
I have a number for you, and I think this explains a bit about why I feel the way I feel about how this game is going to go tonight. I have a hunch, you know, look, if I'm hoping for, I think a lot of reasons that the Stars close it out tonight, and Luds' prediction of Stars in 5 comes true. I said Stars in 6, and the reason why is I just feel that Winnipeg is going to come out. They played well in game 4. They didn't score other than the one Ehlers goofy one from the corner. But I think they're going to give, they dictated a lot of game 4. I think they're going to be even harder to play against for Dallas tonight. They're 5-1 in 6 home playoff games, and they have a 3.67 goals for per game at home versus a 1.6 on the road.
Yikes.
But the big thing is, guys, it's their goalie, right? 2.17 goals against per game at home in the playoffs this year for Winnipeg, 5.00 on the road. It's a huge contrast. The power play has been very pedestrian for both. Their penalty kill has been bad for both. The big difference is they outshoot teams 29.5 to 22 on average at home, where they barely outshoot teams on the road, and they give up. I mean, how do you win games giving up an average of 5 a game? You don't. So I just think that with all that being said, that the Jets are going to play their most inspired, most desperate game. And I think Dallas can win this one, but wouldn't be surprised if we saw game 6 on Saturday. Thoughts?
The one thing I would say in their building, they understand their building, right? It's their home. I think their structure is better in that building. Just sometimes and buildings are all the same, you'd say, but I just feel that when we've seen them play in their rink, you will always see at least 4 guys in a picture frame, if not 5. And that's what makes it difficult. And when it comes to the goaltender in there, well, I'd say talk to that guy over there. I mean, he may have better answers than I do, but I would assume that he feels just more comfortable at home.
I think tonight reminds me a lot of what happened with Vegas and Edmonton last night. Like, and I think I said after the other day that I kind of this is the game I expect to go double overtime tonight, unfortunately, and everything like that. But that's kind of what.
At least we don't have to drive home.
Yeah, like this is the game to me where it's very similar to that game last night, where one team is kind of going in up 3-1, a little bit of house money, can take a little bit. I mean, even Stars have been really well structured already, but similar to Edmonton last night, like one of the reasons that Edmonton Vegas game was 0-0 for so long was Edmonton didn't really take any risks at all. It was kind of they were and Dallas can take a little bit out of that playbook. Obviously, you can't sit back completely, and you can't have your best player not have a shot till 109 left in the game like Edmonton had with McDavid last night. But I think there's a little bit of that playbook to this game tonight where the Jets I think they're going to come out trying to hit everything that moves, but at the same time, if the Stars score early in this game, this one could get ugly. I think the Jets know that. I think that's something from a Jets perspective where there's a lot of that butt clench moment right now.
Do you think, Sean, that there's a lot of maybe, for lack of a better word, pent up nerves and some real insecurity about their game on the Winnipeg side?
Oh, 100%. And that's why I think you're going to see a very boring game tonight. I think the Stars know they don't have to make mistakes. They can play a little bit more conservative. The Jets are going to come out in one element hard, but it not really put themselves in any risk for things. And I see this as being a really boring game, 23, 22 shots each, and it's going to be low scoring. Now, I say that, and of course now it's going to be like a 53 to 46 shot game. It's going to be something. I say that, but like this game to me feels like one of those where both teams basically there's two bunkers basically. For two different reasons, both teams can bunker, and they'll basically go into it that way, and it turns into a little war of attrition.
Sam, I hate to ask you about your digestive system, but what does your gut instinct tell you?
Yeah, I was going to say my gut says this is in the studio. I can talk over those, but I can't hear when it's going on. But no, my gut said it's going back to Dallas for 6. But one thing I really like that, and you guys just mentioned the way they haven't won on the road, all those issues on the road. Scott Arniel and all the players have taken the same approach when being asked about that. They've said, we don't have to do that right now. Right now, we have to win one game at home where we've been excellent. So I think that's the right approach. I'm just curious to see if they're able to avoid that pent-up energy that we're talking about here, or if it's going to be – I expect them to be as good as they were in game 2. It's just all about whether Dallas can get in there, and like Sean said, an early goal would do a heck of a lot of damage.
I'm telling you what they're talking about. They want to play the very same game they played in Dallas. They think that'll be good enough for them because I think they believe that their goaltender is going to be their goaltender at home. Yeah, I think that they will want to put out there. They had 70 attempted shots.
Yep.
I don't know how much you really want to change from Winnipeg's standpoint.
Let's to that point, however, to Sean's argument about the nervous energy, if there is a goal against Hellebuyck, whether it's a bad one or not, does that ripple through the whole Jets team tonight?
I think it ripples through the whole building there. I think the fans are even going, uh-oh, here we go again. You know, and so the last time they played in that or had one of those games in there, or not the last time, but they did see where they had to wait until there was, like Sean talked about earlier, it came down to the last few seconds of the game before they found a way to extend it. So they know what bad can happen.
All right, guys. That's it for the pregame show. For those of you,
wait.
Oh, Sean's got something.
Sean, go.
No, but you should give the people the update of where they can find the game because of what's happening right now. Okay, good then. Good.
Okay, so in case you joined us late, there will be no watch along tonight. The reason why we're remote and why there isn't a watch along is because of, as you can see in the chat, the city of Dallas shutting down the electricity for the building where the DLS Studios is housed, as well as some other parts of that area, from midnight till about 4 a.m. or so. So that means that we can't do our full post-game show from there, so we don't have a watch-along, so we're remote. But, of course, the game is on TNT tonight, so check it out. I believe you can also watch it on Max, which, if you've been listening to the news, is going to be back to HBO Max in a month or two. We'll see. And, of course, our full post-game show, all 4 of us plus John, although John can't talk right now because there's 4 of us on here. All of us will be here for our full post-game show right afterwards. If they win tonight, the Stars will do the Stanley Cone mark-off tomorrow because we'll have a show. If they lose, we won't do the Stanley Cup mark-off because we have to play Game 6 on Saturday. So that's the schedule. Luds is gone. Sean is getting ready. Oh, Sean has one thing more to add.
You forgot to point out the thing I was trying to tell people. Hurricanes, Capitals are tied 1-1. That game will take precedence on TNT.
Oh, okay. You're talking about TV overload.
If you are watching this show and you are going to try to flip to the game, you either need to find True TV, because they should start it on True, or go to Max/HBO Max. So if you're on TNT right now and you got that on your other screen, which I bet you do right now because you're a loyal listener to this show and watching the hockey game at the same time. So you'll have to switch to True or go to Max or HBO Max, whatever you called it now. So that's important.
Big thank you to Happiest Hour and Bud Light, our presenting sponsors for tonight's pregame show, and everybody for listening. Luds, you seem like you have the one thing to say to send us to break.
I believe that they are going to crush these guys.